So today on the Soundiron Podcast, we are going to talk about music in the metaverse. We're going to talk about Bytedance Ripple. We're going to talk about Zimmer making a flex, a little bit of a money flex. I think you'll like it. We're going to talk about Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, dynamic duo. We like duos on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And consuming instead of creating, and Quadral 3. Craig, are you ready?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Incredible. So
extraordinary.
The first thing to talk about is Korg released Gadget VR, which is a virtual reality music studio made for Meta Quest headsets.
Oh, wow.
Ben Rogerson says, "Is it time to take your music production into the metaverse?" And I would say, probably not for me. But this Korg Gadget VR is a 3D circle of synthesizers and drum machines and things like that, all virtual. So you put the headset on and you can like spin around and you see like a mixer and a synth and another synth and a drum machine, and you can touch them, pretend to touch them
virtually.
Touch the virtual products, and you can tweak them and make music in the metaverse. So it is $30 to buy the app. And I actually would be curious to watch somebody doing this and listen to the music they create, because it looks interesting and fun, much like rhythm games that you can play in the metaverse, like Beat Saber. But I think it's a long way from Showtime.
Yeah, I remember. Oh man, I can't. It was like a few years. I start off with saying I remember, and then I forget what year. But it was, I don't know, a couple years back at NAMM. And I remember there was this booth of like a virtual studio, like a 3D, like you put it on and you have like these little things you put in your hand, and you can like push like virtual faders, and like were in a virtual studio.
Yeah.
And it was not the most enjoyable experience. Like it's cool. Seems like but it was, you could tell it was very infant stage.
Yeah.
But I can see people wanting to do that. Eventually people's home studios, it's just going to be like an empty room.
Right.
They're just going to have a VR headset and like padding on their walls so they don't like knock themselves out. I had to run over and turn the knob down. My gain staging was off, and then I headbutted the wall.
Right. But, sorry, Dad. I was rocking too hard for my live performance.
Yeah, I was working on this mix, and
the crowds were loving it.
Yeah. So I mean, it seems like a lot of things are going to be going that way, especially because the popularity of VR has been getting more and more developed and stuff.
Have you used VR at all?
Man, maybe some old stuff. I haven't used any of those like Oculuses or like the new ones. I knew some people that were super into it.
Yeah.
I had a neighbor back in the day that used to play Beat Saber, and he was like hardcore into Beat Saber.
Right.
He'd be like, "Yeah, I'm like ranked like number 3 and blah blah blah." I'm just like, okay, it's like
sounds
it's like
sweaty.
It's like when Guitar Hero was all popular. Like,
yeah.
Even though I'm a guitar player, I was like, I mean, it's fun, but I'm not gonna be all like trying to play Dragon Force at like 1,000 beats per minute or something. Like, no thanks. But yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to try it out. I mean, there's some games I remember a while back that were, I think, for those like VR things, like Resident Evil 7.
Oh yeah.
I remember playing that, and I was like, dude, if I played this in VR, I would probably end up tripping over a table and breaking my neck on something, because that game is already terrifying. Right. So I can't even imagine actually feeling like someone's flying at you and trying to stab you or something. But
no, I don't need that experience in my life.
No, I don't need that kind of trauma.
Okay, the next thing is TikTok owner ByteDance launches Ripple, which is a new app that generates music based on what you sing or hum into it. So you pick a style, and then you just hold on your phone. You just like you're recording to Instagram or whatever, but you sing or hum a melody, and Ripple will turn it into a song. So this is a perfect app for you.
Oh yeah, let me some beatboxing.
So it's in closed beta right now, but it will come up with drum, bass, keyboard, and other parts. It won't do the vocals for you though. You'll have to record those yourself.
Interesting. So if you create a melody, then it tries to like auto-tune the melody and then create an arrangement around it?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
You sing a melody into it, and then it'll like try to make a steady drum beat to it and a chord progression and all of that.
That's kind of cool. To me, that's cooler than the metaverse music making thing.
Yeah, it's a cool idea, I think.
Yeah, especially if, because I mean, like with the AI music stuff, like just like entering prompts or like the idea of that, it's not really, I don't think that's very cool. But the idea of you coming up with some kind of melody and then it's sort of trying to help you out with, oh, like here's maybe some ideas for drums. That'd be cool if you can take a melody and change like the time signature or the arrangement, like, oh, maybe like put this on this or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know how smart it is. I mean, it's a TikTok developer, so like I'm not sure how much you can stretch it, but it seems like a fun idea to try at least a couple times.
Yeah, yeah. I remember do you remember those? It was like around the time when T-Pain was first coming out, and then there was some apps on your phone that
Yeah,
I think it was called like a T-Pain machine,
right.
where it would like take whatever you sing and then like auto tune it and put, I don't know if it put music behind it or something like that, but
There was
yeah,
like
those
auto tune the news for a while on YouTube, big deal
uh
as well. Like just auto tune everything.
yeah, like how hard do you want it? Just 100% T-Pain to the max.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, those kind of apps I think are fun, and
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I would necessarily use it as a serious tool for getting ideas, but I mean, seems like it'd be fun, or can maybe get some kind of inspiration just from that.
I think it's great to introduce kids to music and having fun with music, regardless of the process to get them there. So
Totally.
I'm down for a humming app.
Yeah, it's like those old, like the, when you go to the toy section and like Toys R Us, or well, I don't think Toys R Us is around anymore,
Yeah, rip.
but like, yeah, R.I.P. But another element of my childhood stripped away from me. But like, when you go to, or like Walmart or Target or something, like they have those little like musical toys where it's just like a little like one octave piano or something, or
Yeah,
like the little guitars where you push the button and it just kind of like auto generates stuff. Like I think that's, yeah, those kind of things are cool, and
just getting it going, starting them
get
early.
getting the kids into the music.
Okay, so your boy Hans Zimmer has reportedly bought the BBC's iconic Maida Vale Studios for £10 million. And we use USD here. So that is $13 million. And this legendary facility has been used to record sessions by David Bowie, Led Zeppelin, Nirvana, Beyonce, and more.
Mm-hmm.
So he acquired this London facility through 14th Street Music, his music production and publishing company. And the building was built in 1909. It was
Wow.
originally a roller skating palace, which is pretty fun. The BBC purchased it in 1933, and the BBC orchestra was performing and playing and practicing and recording in it since then. And then they shut it down in 2018, and I guess it's sat there since then. So Zimmer plans to use the building as a British base for writing film scores, and it houses 7 studios inside it. So this thing is huge.
Oh, so he's gonna turn it into like another remote control sort of thing, or?
Yeah. I mean, we don't know for sure, right? He hasn't been too open about his plans, but it sounds like he's gonna have the British remote control.
Oh wow, that's pretty wild. That's
Yeah.
it's a little chunk of change. You know what I mean?
That's
Nice little
that.
chunk of change.
That's that Pirates of the Caribbean money.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, if you got it and you have big ideas, scare money don't make money. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
okay. Man, we should have front ran him. We could have split it.
We got to get him on the podcast. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
Come on, Hans.
Spill
Give
the
us the
beans.
scoop.
Okay, so the other thing, there's a YouTuber named Cuckoo. Yeah, he's got the wild hair. He does synth stuff. And he did an interview recently on Music Radar. And they said, do you have any advice for aspiring creatives? And he said, it's very easy to resort to consuming instead of creating. Sitting there and watching a ton of stuff on your phone, then it's time to go to bed. As creators, I think we need to monitor our own habits and be aware of them. If some of them stop you from being creative, they should be very easy to spot. Take your phone and put it somewhere else. The physical relief is something I feel when I put my phone away. I should do it more often. There is also no creative motivation that is too dumb or mundane. Every kind is good enough in my book. Don't wait for a super legit good idea. Just go for it. So I liked that, and felt a little called out on the phone thing. It's so easy to just get sucked in.
Yeah. You gotta You got to put it on mute or put it face down. You know what's something I don't know. Well, I don't know what kind of phone you have, but on the iPhone they have these different like focus things, which are
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you can set it to where like you don't get notifications from certain apps if you don't want to get blown up by Instagram or Facebook Messenger or whatever it is that tends to bling bling bling.
Right.
But you can set it up to where like if let's say you can only take important phone calls or messages from let's say your wife,
Yeah.
she's out in the store, you don't want her left in the dust, if something, get a flat tire or something,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So I think if you can take advantage of stuff like that, if you do need to keep your phone next to you, it's funny because a lot of times when I see on Facebook, like Facebook groups, I always see like composers on Facebook groups. I'm just like, how does everyone have time to be composing, a few minutes of music a day or however many minutes of music a week?
Uh-huh.
And you're on Facebook all the time. Like they must just have like Facebook just right there, just chilling.
Yeah. Or that's like their smoke break,
Yeah, something like that. Like, I need to conjure up some ideas. Let me go on the old FB and
Let me go live
see
in the
what's up.
comments. Yeah.
It's kind of like that video I showed you the other day, that the one where the dude was talking about
The stallion theory.
and just having like way too many like options. It's like another thing. I think, on the consumer side, it's easy to start getting into, oh, I'm not really feeling it. Maybe I need to buy something. It's like watching content and like buying things could almost be a way. It's like a distraction,
Procrastination.
but it makes you feel good. And you're like, oh man, I got this cool new thing, but then a week goes by and then you're just kind of like, and it's something that can be a struggle too, especially as you get older, I think, where, you're not as like hardcore about, certain things, or you start to feel a little burned out, which you see a lot, and finding new ways to spark your inspiration again, or maybe breaking out of habits that you have that maybe aren't really helping you unleash your creativity.
Yeah.
Sometimes watching videos can do that, but sometimes I think it's like people who watch a lot of motivational videos and they get all pumped, but they don't really do anything. They're just kind of binging on getting that dopamine rush.
Yeah. It's tricky. Speaking of buying things, I would really like you to go buy Quadral 3 if you haven't already. Quadral 3 is my newest artist library with Soundiron, and unlike many other products, it will not continue your gas. You'll live with this thing. You'll enjoy spending time making music with this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't guarantee it, but I will say that I have enjoyed making music with this thing.
Come on, man. If you're gonna push it, you gotta be like Men's Warehouse. Like, you're gonna like the way you look. I guarantee it.
Just go straight Billy Mays with it.
Yeah, you're gonna like the way you sound. I guarantee it. And I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to toot your horn, but this is my favorite Quadral, just because the whole redesign that we did for the Ouroboros engine is just so much more tidied and clean, and we've added new things. We added, the wavetable stuff. The user import stuff is some of my favorite, and just being able to like, I think that's a really cool way because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a lot of recordings that they've done or used, or some people don't know how to make a sample library or that sort of thing, and having all the cool features to really take those recordings and do something awesome with it.
Yeah.
And just experimenting around. And in the walkthrough, if any of you haven't watched the walkthrough, you should definitely check it out. The user sample import section that I did was really cool, because I took some different samples from some Soundiron libraries like the Venus Choir and Friendo, and I was like, what if I tried to make some interesting horror patch, because you have like two different choir drones, and then like some bowed sounds from Friendo, and then this like violin string thing that I played. I recorded it for, I don't know, like a minute or something, just kind of going in and out of a half step and playing it very like Ponticello like. And just being able to like go in and out of these different layers with the different effects and stuff going on in the background, and like things mapped to the macros. I was just like, holy beep, this thing is pretty damn cool. And then you can swap out other sounds. The randomized thing, which we just put a video out on today to, put a focus on that, because that's honestly one of the really cool features of the library, is just being able to randomize what sounds are loaded, the different sound shaping controls. Stuff can change from, the way the offset and the attack are set up, and the, stuff's pitched, and how the different XY pad stuff is mapped, and it's really cool. And it's awesome to just be able to just randomize your way into getting inspired, because sometimes people like that. It's like musical playing the slot machines, You're like,
Oh, that's
all right,
exactly. Yeah, that's right.
you're like, boom, okay, all right, but that's pretty cool. Oh, let me keep going. Boom, jackpot. And then you're on your way to composing your next sweet track, But long-winded story, yes, I approve.
Yeah, Quadral 3 is also my favorite of the three. User sample import, adding your own and using our tools alongside your samples is a really cool way for composers to get unique sounds fast. And then the wavetables just add a whole new element to it.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about like the sound design concepts behind all three quadrals. And the first place that I start is making the categories. So I make the category folders. So I'll have fragmented, I'll have acoustic, I'll have balmy, I'll have cerebral, and then I will start making sounds. And as I'm making a sound, usually it's a mix of acoustic and electronic sources. So let's say a banjo and the Novation Peak running through a pedal board, and maybe an acoustic guitar, and then the Micro Freak. And I'll have those four, then a ton of plugins on it, and then whatever sound comes out of that, I will decide like, okay, this sounds fragmented. This is now fragmented 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so each synth sound in the library is a combination of 3 to 5 different sound sources with a bunch of plugins on top. And you have 4 layers of that. So you can easily be playing like 16 synths when you play one note. And so you get some really, really wacky and wild sounds, but I wanted to keep it as tonal as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like an atonal serial mess, but it is a really fast way to get pads and just atmospheres.
Yeah, because I always loved the being able to crossfade between different sound sources.
Yeah.
And being able to utilize the tempo sync XY pad, and being able to now, one of the awesome things that we added to this as well is now you can map the X and the Y to CC controllers, which is really cool. And that's a feature that people have asked about. So we've included it. And that's another way to have even more control, because, you can turn on the X and the Y and just let it do its thing, depending on how you set the speed and the range. But being able to have a little bit more hands-on control, like one of the things I talked about in the walkthrough was being able to have something like the Y-axis enabled, with the speed and range just kind of going up and down on its own, and then using CC1 or your modulation, and being able to just go up and down. So like it'll be sweeping, or no, left and right. So it'll be going up and down on its own, and then you can, if you want to go up into layer 2, and then down into layer 4 and 3, and just get a lot of movement. And it really helps make these different ambient loops even more just, because it's not like I hear the loop. You're never going to hear the loop, because it's always changing. You're always coming into a different point of the loop, and then with all different effects and stuff, it just really makes it to where if you're doing any kind of video game scoring, especially, and you're just doing these ambient tracks where characters just kind of walking around, and you just always want it to kind of evolve, I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, the XY pad is money.
Yeah, you can't mess with the XY pad. So it's just all of that together, and then like with the macro stuff that we've added, you can now assign the X and Y to the macros, and the macros can control different effects or different aspects of the sound shaping controls depending on what layer you have loaded. So it's really an endless, I know some people might hear that term a lot, but really with this, like, you really can do a ton, especially when you start utilizing your own samples. And I think that's a great way for people to not only use what we've provided, but make it their own, and make it feel like they have a little bit more of their own personality that they can utilize with the library, which I think is awesome.
Exactly. So you record your guitar playing one note like tremolo, and then you bounce that out, you throw it into Quadral, you got your own sound.
Bada bing, bada boom. You're gonna like the way you sound.
Boom. So it's $39 right now on intro.
Definitely worth checking out, especially since it's on intro.
So we're going to talk about a dynamic duo, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. And the reason that this came up is twofold. Number one, I rewatched Gone Girl this weekend. Have you seen that movie?
I have not. That's a Ben Affleck movie, right?
Yep. Have you listened to the score?
I have not.
Okay, it seems like a score you would like. I was expecting you to say, I haven't watched the movie, but I have listened to the score.
Yeah, that is something that I tend to say.
That's a Craig Peters move right there.
Yep. That's what I do best. I listen to scores and don't watch movies.
So Trent Reznor in 2010 got a call from David Fincher, and David Fincher said, I would like you to score The Social Network. And he was like, I've never really done a film score, and I just told myself that I would take a break from touring and from working and just like have some me time. So it's not you, it's not the script. I'm out of my element, and you should find somebody else. And then he like felt really bad about saying no to David Fincher, as you probably should. And so a couple weeks later, he called him and he was like, hey, I just wanted to retell you that it wasn't you, it wasn't the movie. It's like everything about it sounds really cool, and I would love to do your next movie in a couple of years or whatever. And David Fincher was like, I'm still waiting for you to do this movie.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay. So he went over there and they started working on the film. Trent is kind of the creative, emotional force behind the duo, and Atticus provides a lot of the editing and sequencing and behind the scenes, like hard work of putting things together, remembering melodies and ideas, and like mixing them and blending them, like almost a producer.
Yeah, like keeping it all together. And
yeah, exactly. So Trent is kind of a flow kind of composer. A lot of things just like flowing, and they just kind of stream of consciousness style. And then he says that he'll leave the room and like go for a coffee break or whatever, and he'll come back, and Atticus has put together all of these like random ideas and snippets into something very usable and good.
So he kind of like takes his genius and then interprets it in his own way.
Yeah,
sort of thing. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that Trent Reznor would start doing film scoring and stuff like that, because his music is already super cinematic. You know, like any Nine Inch Nails stuff you listen to, it's just, yeah, a lot of it just yields itself to very cinematic and kind of puts images in your head and
moods, right?
Super moody, yeah. And I think he's just one of those creative people that can do that. So it totally makes sense to see that he's doing that now, and I think it's really cool.
So 2010 Social Network, he wins an Oscar for the score, and he said it was like I entered a race never running before and won. He said it was like the strangest thing, and he was sitting at tables with composers like he knew the name of, but he didn't know personally, and he was like, what am I doing here? Like, how did I get here, kind of thing.
Yeah, I could see that being sort of an awkward feeling, especially because he seems like, I mean, as huge of an artist as he is, when you watch him talk in interviews, I don't know if you've seen interviews with Trent, like he doesn't seem like a very cocky guy. Like you can tell, like he's a guy who doesn't like to be out very much, or seems kind of closed off probably to most people. So like him being like in a completely different element, him even probably being at like the MTV Music Awards back when getting awards for Nine Inch Nails, he's probably still like, what am I doing here? But I could see that feeling, you know, especially if you're wondering if people are like, well, this guy just got a Grammy because he's Trent Reznor.
Sure.
But it's just, you're going to get some people probably feeling like that, but hey, it doesn't matter whether he's been doing film scoring or not. The dude's been making music for a long time.
Yep. Have you listened to the Social Network score?
Not on its own. I have seen the movie.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, but probably should just listen to it.
It's cool. So some fun facts about Trent. He went to college for a year for computer engineering, and he was raised by his grandparents. He was a Boy Scout. He started piano at 5 years old. He had his first beer at 13 years old. And,
Okay.
and he, that's part of his like story is recovering and being sober. He got sober in 2001. And so that's something that he talks about a lot. But he went on the Rick Rubin podcast last month. And so I listened to that, and he got to talk about doing the David Fincher thing. And he's had like a great relationship with David Fincher since then, and they've worked on a lot of stuff. So Gone Girl, the score for that was really interesting because David Fincher went to a chiropractor, and they were playing this like ambient music in the office that was supposed to like calm you down and make you feel good, but it was unsettling. It was like the opposite. So he said that's the idea. Like, I want it to feel like this meditative, trancey ambient music, but it's like messing with your mind. And an insincere facade. He said that the music that he heard was inauthentically trying to make him feel okay, and it became a perfect metaphor for the film.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like listening to the song Hurt, where you hear like, just a couple notes just slightly off, or you're always hearing this sound of like just a record player, just
right.
These little elements that you don't really notice that they're there maybe on the first go, but you're just like, why do I feel so like just
uncomfortable?
I feel a little uncomfortable. Yeah.
So 9 Inch Nails did an album called Ghosts, and I don't know how much you know about this. I just learned about it today, but they went in and they had like a picture or like of something, and they said like start to finish, one song is done each day. So by the end of the day, the song is done. Whatever you have at the end is what we're shipping, which is a really cool idea. It's like a Brian Eno-esque kind of idea, but you take a photograph, something very sensory, gives you emotions, gives you instrumentation, and then you have 12 hours. Good luck. And David Fincher took some of that music from Ghosts and temped The Social Network with it.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way of just like super focusing on one thing.
Yeah.
Because going back to what you were talking about earlier, I think you need that if you're like to be able to do something like that, like crank out a song in 12 hours. Like, because sometimes you might just crank it out in a couple hours if you get in that flow state. But yeah, I think that's a great way, especially if your setup is set up in a way to where like you're not very distracted. I think you could totally be able to pull that off.
He's very passionate about deadlines as well. He talks a lot about deadlines. I guess he was touring while he was composing Gone Girl. He was on tour with 9 Inch Nails. And so he was like, yeah, we had these hard deadlines for the music, and that really helped me focus and get it done and not procrastinate.
Yeah, especially trying to do something on tour too, because tour is already crazy, especially the level of 9 Inch Nails. I give it to him.
He's been grinding a long time. So both him and Atticus are parents. Trent has 5 kids, and I believe Atticus has 3. And they talk about their work schedule is very interesting. They say they get up before the sun and they try to quit by midday. So he said, I guess they work from like 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I'm sure there's exceptions when there's big deadlines and big crunches, but I like that schedule.
Yeah, especially if you have kids. I mean, because if you can have someone who's taking care of them during the day and you're up before everyone else is up, it's a little bit easier to get into that. All right, I don't have any distractions sort of thing. Yeah.
Keep the phone outside.
Yeah, that's crazy, the quitting by 12, I would think, because I know there's, some people that like they'll hard cut it off at, 5 p.m. I'm done.
Sure.
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever their, your schedule is. And, having that hard cutoff time for the family. So I think it's very easy to just stay immersed in your studio or whatever you do. I think having stuff like that, like either writing deadlines or having hard cutoffs for when you shut it off, I think those are important.
Absolutely. Have you seen the movie Soul, the Pixar movie that came out?
I have. Okay. I have. I really like that one.
I was really surprised that they did that movie.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like jazzy elements and stuff.
Yeah, it's very it's not the style that I was expecting from them.
Yeah, I think I didn't even know he did the music for that until after the movie. This is like the credits, and I was like, "What?"
Right.
Kind of thrown off, but yeah, it's
They've had
crazy.
a pretty killer career, and they're very choosy about the projects they work on.
Hmm.
And he talked about being choosy on the Rick Rubin podcast that he went on last month. But he said, like, are we going to become a factory of producing film scores, or are we going to take our time and like only work with who we want to work with and all that stuff? And so I suppose that is the nice thing about having some fame under your belt. He said like he's not planning on touring anytime soon, and like with Nine Inch Nails, and they
Hmm.
might just be done touring
We'll see about that.
because he wants to spend time with his kids, his 5 kids.
Yeah, he'll probably get the itch for it in another year or two.
Yeah.
Because I actually got to see Nine Inch Nails when I was out in France.
Oh, really?
That was really cool.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was right when we were, I think, 15 minutes before our set was over. They started playing on the main stage.
Nice.
So right after we were done, my girlfriend and I, like, literally, I'm like packing all my stuff up on the stage and like running to the main stage to go catch them. And because that's like one of her favorite bands, if not her favorite band. And I really like Nine Inch Nails. So, and it was just like, man, it'd be so cool to, actually get to see them in another country. So yeah, I'm looking forward to whenever they come back around.
That's killer.
I think he will. Because there's times where I think he was like, yeah, we're not doing it no more. And then I'm sure they get a little bored and like, all right, I think I want to get back out there.
Yeah, or the fans are screaming loud enough that you're like, yeah, okay, we'll give them what they want. We'll go
Yeah.
do a couple shows.
Yeah. Especially when you're at that point of a band in your career where, I mean, he could retire, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So being choosy about projects is totally understandable, because it's like, if you're done, you've done all this stuff, you should be a little bit more picky about what you wanting to work on, because then you'll really be super into it when you work on it, not just like, oh, I got this gig, because it's not like he needs the money.
You're not doing it for the check, right?
Yeah, like it should be for the actual want of doing it. So I totally get that.
So now we can move on to our recommendations section. So I found a plugin this week called InstaVibe. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's by Linda Audio. It's a free plugin, and it is a creative audio effect which can bring several kinds of modulation and distortion to your tracks. And it's got tube distortion, harmonic enhancing, EQ, some noise, some wow and flutter, and some chorus. So it's kind of like a all-in-one. You throw it on for InstaVibe.
Mm-hmm.
And the GUI is pretty nice. I'm always looking for stuff to sound design more samples, because eventually I have to make Quadral 4 is what I'm hearing. So
you can't do a Quadral series without having the fourth one be
right.
Quadral.
So that's the free plugin of the week right there. And then I found a website that you might like. It's called Mindful Harmony. And it is like a big old circle of fifths, and you select one of them, and then you can pick chords and make a chord progression. So it's in beta right now, but it says helping you write unique and harmonically rich music. And so I made a chord progression in Phrygian, and I had some extended chords going on, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of nice.
It's getting spicy up in here.
It's getting spicy. Yeah. So if you're in a creative rut and you're looking for some chord progressions, you can just start clicking around and get something pretty interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. I remember, I don't know if I mentioned it before. I'll send you the link, and we can include it if we want to put it in the description for recommendations. Yeah. But it was this orchestrator page. Like I don't remember the person who created it, but you can click different chords and like create different chord progressions, but hear it sort of played back with an orchestra.
Oh yeah, I remember you sending me that.
Yeah, I don't know if it just orchestrates it with like strings and brass, or if there's woodwinds, but it just it just plays these long like 2D chords.
Yeah, it's just sustains.
Yeah, and it's really neat. Like I've actually got some ideas for little chord progression, because you could just click and go back and forth like and like going between major and minor, or that sort of thing. And it's really an easy way to just kind of just get some sounds playing back at you that are like, oh, like that sounds cool, like without actually having to program it all in.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can get inspired from different chord progressions. So I'd definitely be down to check that out. That sounds cool.
The other thing I would recommend is The Bear season 2.
Oh, you stole it. You stole my recommendation. I agree with you. The Bear is something I've been looking forward to. I know we've talked about it on the podcast. And yeah, saw season 2. I think I binged it. I got like through half the season and then sort of broke it out over a couple days. But I really liked it. I mean, I know you were saying you liked the first season a little bit better.
Yeah, so one review I read was the first season is a war story and the second season is a sports team trying to win a championship. And I think that's a pretty good analogy.
Yeah.
I really liked the second season too. Like it was great to see the character development and see what everybody's up to. And I'm excited for season 3. I hope that they make a season 3.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna do a season 3 because I mean the show's done well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was it Jeremy Allen White? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just gotten awards for his character, Carmy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. I like that it shows more of the character development and also more of like their family dynamic.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of an insight into sort of like why they are the way that they are, because a lot of the, especially if you've seen season 1, no spoilers really, but like a lot of the characters seem very high strung. There's a lot of tension, without really making it feel like it's trying to be over dramatic. That's why I like it so much, is that it feels very natural in the way that they do their dialogue and stuff. But I like to see that, and because you're seeing them with their own personal struggles while not only just trying to get this business going but also just dealing with their own personal issues. And it's just a really good show. So if you haven't seen it, I mean, if you like food and cooking, you'll probably like this show. Even if you don't, you'll probably like this show. Oh, you know what's another show that it's a Hulu show that I was watching over the weekend. It's really good. It's called This Fool.
Oh yeah, I've seen like the first 3 episodes of it. I liked it.
Yeah, it's super funny. It's just like a really funny show. It's kind of ridiculous at times.
Yeah,
but that's another Hulu show that I would recommend to check out if you got Hulu.
I think the reason that we talk about food so much on this podcast is there's a lot of crossover in the art forms between food and music. They're both consumables. They're both something that takes a lot of work and perfecting the craft, and it's also very subjective. Like some people like this kind of food, some people like this kind of music, and others hate it. And so watching each character on the Bear like learn the art form in a specific way and work on their craft is inspiring to music.
Yeah, because you got like the characters who one of the things I thought was interesting was Jeremy Allen White actually was doing culinary education and stuff and working in actual top tier restaurants to really get into that role, which I thought was neat.
They used 0 hand doubles for any of the cutting board like knife shots. So like everything you see is actually them chopping stuff.
Yeah, which is I think that's awesome. Because it's like when you watch a movie about someone who's like a famous violinist, and you can always tell when like sometimes they might mimic it pretty closely. Yeah, but that's just a hard thing, or like the pianist, like, okay, like no one's just gonna all of a sudden like be an actor and like, all right, you got to develop Chopin chops in 6 months,
right,
or 6 weeks or something like that. It's like it's easier for an actor to bulk up 20 pounds for like a superhero movie than it is probably for somebody to try and develop technical skills like that.
Totally.
But yeah, I say watch it if you haven't. If not, you're missing out. I know I was missing out for a long time, and you were you were like, "Hey, Craig, you gotta watch The Bear," and I was planning on it, but let's just say I don't regret the decision that I made to watch it.
Good things take time. That's what I hear.
Good things take time. Yep.
All right, that concludes the Soundiron Podcast for this week. If you like what you heard, please subscribe. It really helps us out with making more episodes. And Craig, I'll catch you soon, my friend.
Catch you on the flip. Flip it out.
Peace.
Peace out.